Hello once again, this is Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming, and this will probably be a fairly short video. I wanted to show something because I screwed up a little bit in the last video, so I want to show you something what I've got here. These are some of the notes that I created for myself. All right, I wanted to create the database. I wanted to open up SQL Server Management Studio, did that. Wanted to connect. It actually did connect, so we'll get to that in a little bit. I did right click on databases and I chose new database. I named it BMI database. Then what I could have done, rather than actually going in and putting in there what I did, entering all that stuff, I could have made a script. This says make the database active. Go means begin. Then create table. All right, this is where what I wish I would have done and I didn't do before, so I want to change this. All right, so I'm going to make a couple changes. Now, just so you see this, why do you use these columns? Well, you already know the person ID was the primary key. First and last names help to identify the user. The height and the weight are two inputted fields, along with first name and last name. The BMI and the BMI status are two calculated fields, and the date created brings us a little bit of history. Let me stop for a sec. All right, so I probably should have done it that way. What I'm going to do next is, after I do that, is to quick add this file. We'll talk about what that is in just a moment. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to bring it back up, and I want to bring the database back up again. Okay, so let's view the designer. You've already seen this. This is all the stuff we had in there before. It actually did change it to identity 1.1 for me, so that one's okay. All right, but I want to add in here the other field, as I mentioned before. So I'm going to add this date created. All right. And what is that? Again, it's the date we created it. By default, it's going to get the current date. All right. Everything else that's in here we already had. So we now have a date created field. All right. And the default, as it says, is the get date. So I'm going to update the database. I'm going to tell it to update the database. All right. And that should have happened already, so I should be able to shut this. All right. And I've already mentioned this, again, why we put these columns in there. All right. And yes, these were user identity, but they were also inputted fields. You had to input the first name. You had to input the last name. All right. You could say height and weight were user identity also. It really doesn't matter. Now, I'm not sure if this file got created for us or not, so I'm going to look. But just in case it was not, I'm going to copy that. We'll create the file right now. How do I know whether or not that file's even in there? Well, if we come here, we go to date modified, and we go to this one right here. There you'll notice we've got an app config file right there. It's in there. All right. So in other words, we already do have a file by that name. Good, fine, dandy. But I'm going to come up here. I'm going to see if I can find it in here. There's app config. All right, there it is. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit enter a couple times. I'm going to paste that whole thing in and see what's different. XML version configuration. All right, we needed that. We can put that startup stuff in here, so I'm going to copy that. All right, it comes right after configuration, so I'm going to put that in here. All right, now I'm going to remove all the rest that was in here. Okay, and you'll notice it's not showing any errors anymore. Again, I can bring it back. All right, it's going to bring errors, but you can see what was in there. I kept the version, the encoding, configuration, the startup stuff, and then I just changed it to this. This is the most important line right here. This says that the database that I'm connecting to in my program is going to be a MS SQL local DB, my database, and it's called BMI database. All right, and I'm going to do a file, save all. All right, that was really, really, really important that I do that. All right. So what we have done right now then is we have started to work on the database. All right. And what I want to do next is I want to start making some changes to the files in the program so they recognize the database. All right. You could say, well, don't they recognize it now? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, because we do have this connection string in here. All right. But no, because I don't have any code in my program that's actually accessing them. So I'm going to come back and put that in just a couple minutes. See you then.